So let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for hopping on today's webinar. We're about visualizing the future, how you can leverage AI and data management to transform your pharmaceutical operations. My name is Mil Bogdanovich. I'm a senior account executive here with Ashbach. I've been with the company now for a few years. And really, I work with customers and prospective customers and really helping them improve upon their internal plant communications, their collaboration, but also in helping drive efficiencies within their plants. Joining me today is Zhen Yan, who I will let introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Very warm welcome also from my side. And then, of course, I see a few familiar faces in here from Europe. So to all of you, thank you for spending your evening with me and thank you all for joining. I'm Zhen Yan. I've joined Ashbach as industry principal Pharma just a few months ago. Before I was I was working at Bayer for 10 years in various roles in global engineering, but as well in operational roles like maintenance lead and engineering director. And I've been highly involved with ISPE International and also the regional organization for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and I will continue doing so. So when we talk about visualizing the future, I think even the pharmaceutical industry, although we are usually lacking a little bit behind, we've come a pretty far way when it comes to organizing our workspace and especially organizing our workspace with visual management. And I just want to make it kind of interactive and give you the opportunity to engage. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. Also, if you'd like to, you can introduce yourself, maybe just your name and your role in the chat as well, just to get a little bit of conversation going. And of course, please answer my questions, right? So first question to all of you is have you seen 5S before? Have you worked in any kind of environment where 5S was prevalent? So, and this is talking about the physical space, right? So I think in a lot of environments nowadays, we've already used visual management and we've come quite far in how the physical world can be organized and how it can look like when it is organized. However, if we're looking at our digital communication channels, and Milan, can you please? So if we look at our digital communication channels, I think it is not a stretch as when we say a lot of our communication nowadays still looks like this, like if it's work or private life, right? We are using a lot of different communication channels. And I mean, I keep asking myself regularly, where did I read this? Was that in Teams or was it an email or was it maybe just a WhatsApp or something I got? And especially because you can't really visualize our digital communication channels, also visualizing how our digital communication channels could look like in the future is quite challenging.
Yeah, in terms of when I typically first engage with companies, I usually hear the same three challenges in terms of what's going on in their day-to-day operations. The first is really just the overall disconnected shop floor. And as it sounds, I mean, this is obviously going to lead to some productivity inefficiencies, but also just a lot of communication breakdowns overall, right? Because people are going through many different silo channels to, find information and also just kind of get a better understanding of what they need to do for the day. We also know as far as nonconformities, this can become very, very costly and timely in terms of, finding them and just kind of tracing them back to their origin. And then, of course, number three, just the overall lack of cross-departmental communication is severely lacking. And this could impact many things, including production supply chains. But this is the kind of the standard, three things that we're hearing across the board. It doesn't matter if you're a smaller pharmaceutical company or a very large multinational. It's pretty consistent across the board. So why is that? It's pretty simple. Usually the way that the information is structured is it is extremely informal, but also highly fragmented and just inconsistent at the end of the day. So as far as your task management or action management, as some folks like to call it, these are not very well documented or even trackable. It is pretty common for me to see a a company who has tasks managed in different technologies or systems based on what department they're in. So maybe QA has their own system that they're doing in Teams. Someone else may have a Monday.com board set up for their tasks, but no one really knows what's going on cross departmentally. No one really understands what needs to be done holistically in their plan. So that's a big challenge. A lot of times people don't actually understand what needs to be done for the next shift. Like, what are the priorities? What do we, what's the most critical things that that next shift needs to take care of? A lot of that's actually unclear because, again, the information is siloed. And then, of course, in terms of the shift handovers, these vary greatly. It could be different between operators, between shift supervisors, between departments. There is no standardization in terms of how that's occurring, which is just not just inefficient, but can lead to more nonconformities, potentially safety incidents as well. And then finally, just the disparate systems that are in place, it just makes it really difficult for people to find information at the end of the day. Zenzen, I'm not sure if you saw this, previously as well in terms of, how much time are you spending just trying to find information because there's so many different silos of it available. So what we're really trying to do at the end of the day is just basically break down those silos and make it easy for people to not just see the information, but digest it and quickly take action on it.
Yeah, totally. Like when I became a maintenance leader, for example, right? And really, like, let's face it, the information just flows or the communication just happens where people are like spending time together, like taking their breaks together or just sitting close together. So back then, when I became a maintenance leader, I was leading 4 different teams. And my usual morning would basically look like this. Like I would get into work at around 7. Then I would like go through all my machines, go on the shop floor, talk to the people there, say hi, just checking also if everything that is supposed to be running was actually running. And then I would go to my computer and I would open up like 4 to 5, sometimes 8, sometimes 9 different files just to check what was happening yesterday, if we reached our goals, if there was anything that was brought to my attention I need to like take care of. And then at 8 a.m. we would usually have our performance dialogue or our like morning dialogue. And basically it still happened every now and then that there was like one of the files that I didn't look into and I was not prepared for like the discussion happening. And really like it was like at that time also where I really wished I would have like one single view, like one source of data, which I could just open up. I would have one view and be able to see everything that happened, everything that was important for me and my specific role in one dashboard. And really what is important about that as well is like having one singular view only works for a certain focus, like for a certain role and a certain scope of work. And if we are like looking at the different consumers that would be in your whole organization consuming your manufacturing data, we have to basically look throughout the whole organization. Like it's not enough to only look at the silo, which would be maintenance or engineering, or look at production. We have to look like across the whole organization, because everyone in this organization will be working on a different scope and also on a different like time frame where they need the data or what kind of like time frame they're looking at when they're looking at the data. So especially like if you're looking at the top level here, for example, a VP of operations overseeing many production sites, or maybe a region or even the global organization, he would be more looking at a time frame that would be like monthly, and the real focus he would be having is like the global demand delivery. So really, is what we are supposed to deliver, has that been delivered, and has it been delivered on time and full, right? Which would be maybe one of the KPIs. And then also monitoring what could be the growth and how does it like perform against my capacity utilization? Am I still on the right track there? And then just going down to, for example, plant manager, of course, there the focus would be different because it wouldn't be going across a whole global organization. It would be only focused on that singular production plant. And there a big trigger would be cost per unit. Am I producing what I'm producing? with the right cost, right quality, and am I using my capacity right? And then if you then go like, and then of course, if you're like at that level, it doesn't matter to you whether the machine is running at this very current moment. You're just looking into, am I delivering what I promised to be delivering? But really, when we go like to operator, right? Like most of the operators will not be able to see a whole batch. So what is really important for them would be real-time execution. They'll be looking in, what do I have to do right now? What do I have to do on the shift to assure the right quality, to assure that there will nothing happen to the batch that shouldn't be happening? And then, of course, maintenance always the most important role in my eyes. It's a joke, right? It's not. But maintenance, very important. We would be looking more into a second by second, right? Because ideally, what we want to know is what is happening to that machine before the actual breakdown, to be able to maybe even do some preventive maintenance, to be able to keep that machine running and to prevent an actual downtime.
Awesome. I'd be curious as well, based on the folks in the chat, if they've also seen, a similar experience as well at their organizations. So if you have, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, and again, if you have questions, right, you can also just raise them. We will have time at the end for questions. Yeah, so a lot of times when you would have a like different organizational levels, I guess like all the pharmaceutical companies you're probably working in will have a similar structure of tiered communication where we have ideally different data systems where we can take data out. And then we would go through a tiered communication cascade, like escalating up information and also decisions that maybe needs to be taken, but also really focusing on taking the decision at the right level. But with that structure, we'll be able to eliminate the siloed information and bring like the departments closer together. And then, of course, because you also give the power to the people to resolve issues at the right level, they can get resolved faster because they don't need to wait for a supervisor to say something if they know they can take that decision on themselves. We can maintain quality and compliance with the right KPIs. This really also depends on, of course, again, which level you're looking at and what are the right KPIs for that specific focus group. And overall, just having this like tiered meeting cascade, tiered communication cascade, it really improves productivity as well. And ideally, of course, if you have tiered communication, you would not be running around with a Post-it or copy pasting data from one dashboard into another just to be able to show the right KPIs, right? Like in like today's digitalized and connected world, really just having the opportunity to use a digital tool like Shift Connector to bring together really your people, which you can see there at the top, with your data, and making that data accessible in one single tool available for all the people that actually need the access, and I like also making it accessible live. And then basically like thinking about all the data you're now having, right? And of course, like you need to make sure that you don't get a data overload. Not everyone can see everything. Like not everyone is just looking at a lot of information that is maybe not relevant for them, right? Just having this amount of data really benefits from the visual factories, and especially looking into digital visual factories where we can collect the data automatically, it gets processed in a system, and you can calculate the KPIs. So we don't only need to not run around with Post-its anymore. We also don't need a person that is sitting there doing the data crunching for us. Because of course, once you do like manual data calculation, it is all really dependent on that function or the people that are coming in to do it. And then when you're looking at the dashboard, you will always be wondering whether this data is actually live, whether it got updated, whether it is still relevant, maybe it is old, right? And really, if you're using like digital dashboards and really embracing a digital visual factory, you can not only automate your visual dashboards, You can communicate your results in real time, and you can communicate them across the organization. And Milan will also show us in a second how it can work. You can make sure, like, again, if you automate the KPIs, you can all of a sudden make use of more powerful KPIs, right? Because usually if you would take like not calculated KPIs, you are more or less limited to a certain set of them, right? So really being able to calculate them in real time brings a big benefit. You can anticipate in real time the risk and the threats, like you can see how you're performing against your leading and your lagging KPIs, of course, and you can like decide what you have to do once you see the data. And then,
Awesome.
yeah, you can
And
plan and
because
act to
that's a
successfully
quick,
meet the results.
yeah, quick question for you. So
Yeah.
you mentioned, earlier that, you would spend kind of the first hour of your day, as in maintenance, kind of walking and trying to gather information. I'm curious, so if you're to kind of like distill it down to like, all right, if you had a central dashboard like we're showing right now with all the information you need, like how much time do you think realistically you would save like on your day to day?
I think realistically, I would probably save like almost half an hour every day. But I
Okay.
really think, like, of course, it's really easy to put it into the minutes. Like, I could probably already started problem solving, be much like faster and quicker with resolving issues. But really, what it also would have brought me is like an ease of mind, because like you said, right, there are a lot of silos, like communicates with production, maintenance communicates with maintenance. Just like having that data combined already like resolves a lot of like misalignment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty consistent with what we've heard from other customers as well. We typically hear on average, on the low end, roughly an hour. Let me make sure I get this right. An hour per week per user in Shift Connector. So thinking about like what you can do with just an hour extra, in your week as a user, you could get a lot of things done, right? And that's really on the low end. And we have some customers as well who have seen obviously more than an hour savings, just having everything centralized and not having to go through multiple different tabs just to find information, but also just to enter information, right? Where we want to make sure that people are just in one area working, not just entering information, but also seeing what they need to do, right? Because if you're kind of not overloading your operators and everyone else, on the floor with all this information in different areas to find it, to your point, Zenzen, they will be happier, much more productive, and not as stressed out, which is always good.
Absolutely. And like the thing is, do you really trust a node that has been written in the last 3 minutes of an 8-hour shift, right? Like just simply by the fact that you're not recording the information, maybe like when it happened, and you're like pressing everything in the shift handover or in the last few minutes of the shift really also leads to like a shifted focus, right? Because people will not be able to remember what they did in the first hour if it wasn't like a big task or if it wasn't like super, super relevant. So this information automatically will get lost.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've talked about like how we can eliminate silos. We've talked about like how we can make data accessible for our people, how we can unite humans with the database, and then also about how it can be visualized. Of course, like a lot of we could talk hours about the right KPIs, but like just in theory, like these can all be visualized. And then really just from all of this, like I think the most important part is the action taking, right? Like, of course, we can all look at some data and some dashboards, but really what happens once a problem occurs, right? It gets maybe rooted in all these different channels. You will talk about it in the shift handover, you will talk about it in the performance dialogue. If it's a bigger issue, you will also like hand it over to a problem solving team, for example, and then all of it gets onto a point where you really need to record tasks. And Milan also talked about it already, right? Like you really also need the possibility and opportunity to be able to define what needs to be done to make our KPIs green again. And then ideally, you also want to be able to assign these tasks to people and then also track them, right? Because a lot of times what happens is it's a bigger issue. We have to wait for a spare part, or we have to do something next week. And then either it gets forgotten, or we're thinking it gets forgotten, but people did it, but they forgot to tell us. So really just also having the visibility there all in one system, and then the ability to build a knowledge base out of that.
Awesome.
Is
Thanks, Zenzen. So with that, let me get into the demo for you folks, and let me share my other screen. Zenzen, how are we looking?
great. We can
All
see
right,
your screen. We can see the demo.
fantastic. Always a good sign. Excellent. So a few quick notes before I dive into things. Shift Connector is a SaaS-based application. It's all via the web. Everything in Shift Connector that I'm showing you is configuration, not customization. So customization is usually a dirty word in software because that means a lot of money spent making it do what you want it to do. But this is all configuration via our configuration tools, which admins have the capability to do so down here. So we can actually scale this out very quickly. It's not an MES implementation. Our implementations are roughly 2 to 3 months in length. Also, I'm an admin in the system, so I can see everything. I could see my tier ones. I can get into tier 2, tier 3 if I wanted to. But just note that if you are just like a tier 1 operator, you would just see tier 1. All right, so you can kind of, um, uh, I guess, relegate what level of detail each person has to see in the system. So on the left-hand side here, this dark blue column, this does collapse. But here's kind of like the main navigation areas in Shift Connector. For my tier ones, I have multiple tier ones set up. So these are all representing different departments in Shift Connector. So cell cultivation, harvesting, purification, these are all just tier ones. So operators will be operating out of these dashboards in these views. Down at the bottom, I could also see all my different integrations that are occurring with Shift Connector. So if I want to see maybe all of my MES integrations, all of my PM notifications to SAP PM or IBM Maximo, I can click into one of those areas and see all of the different PM notifications that have been sent, what their status is. I could always filter more as well in Shift Connector by location or status and so on. So you always have that ability to kind of go into the system and get additional detail if you like. And then on the bottom here, I have the My Mailbox section. This is as it sounds. If someone assigned me something specifically, um, AI. If someone assigned me something specifically in Shift Connector, this is where it would appear. So if someone assigned me an instruction, and really an instruction in Shift Connector is basically something that you want to enforce a specific action on. So here it could be in the safety category. I want to ensure that, all the operators, there's 10 selected. I want to ensure that, for this specific piece of equipment, to make sure that all the guards and safety interlocks are engaged before they start the filling process. So here I would need to go in, read what this is. And of course, if it was a more detailed document, you'd see that as well. And then I need to sign off that I've actually, read and understood the instruction, and then that falls off the board. You also have the ability to assign specific tasks to people as well. This could be anything from within Shift Connector, or maybe you want to pull in tasks from other systems, or this could be a mobile task. So I'm going to create a task in Shift Connector that maybe I want someone to do, maybe I want Zenzen to do a Gemba walk this Thursday, that kind of a thing. And then, of course, you have workflow tasks. And those are basically, I would be the next, I don't have any available, but I'd be the next step in the approval process for a specific workflow. It could be something like a safety bypass procedure. I need to sign off on it. Those would show up there as well. So again, we're trying to centralize, but also keep everyone on the same page in terms of how you're managing tasks in your day-to-day. So with this dashboard that I'm showing right now, this is the tier 1, as I mentioned before. And again, this is all configurable. You can kind of drag and drop these. If you go into the configurator tool, you can make this entire screen a dashboard if you really wanted to. But this is just kind of our demo environment. But really here, the areas that you see highlighted in green on the edges, I'm not too worried about, right? They're green, they're good, they're within spec. I could see that, with this batch, it's on time. This is pulling information over from the MAS system. I don't need to worry about that. But these areas in yellow are things I am a little bit worried about, right? I could see that there was a near miss safety incident. I could see that there was some quality deviations as well. And so as a tier one person, I want to make sure I'm kind of focusing on these things to make sure that, I take care of what's going on, but also to kind of help prevent these from occurring in the future as well. I'm going to get into this in 1 second, but at the very bottom, you also see kind of list grids that, again, you can kind of tailor these to your specific organization. But you can see all your different events, your tasks, and instructions here as well. Let me just highlight the task very quickly. You'll see a lot of different color coding in Shift Connector. So when it comes to tasks, you could see color coding in terms of, what's open, what's coming due, what's overdue here in the red. These could be a variety of different tasks. If I was to click on this little button to add one, you can, again, kind of configure this. You can have any sort of Gemba walk tasks. You can have lean rounds, changeovers, however you want to define this. It's all configuration in our system. If I was to do just a very like a generic or general task, which I'll show you, um, it's very easy to kind of go in and enter these as you see fit. You can assign specific due dates. Maybe you have it due for a specific time, or maybe you want to make a recurring task, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly. You can keep it open. So again, if you're thinking about doing like maybe you want to do a safety shower check every Thursday afternoon, you can certainly set that up as well. You can set the status. And then most importantly, you could also assign specific operators or employees to these tasks as well. So whether you want to assign to someone specifically, or more commonly what we see our customers do, is assign it to an entire shift. So when it comes to something like, a Gemba walk or a lean round or something like that, I don't necessarily care who's doing it. I just want to make sure that it's done. So as we mentioned before, a lot of times people don't really know what the priorities are for the next shift. Here we're eliminating that, right? I could just assign this to everyone in this shift, and basically whoever is available, once it's their shift, whoever takes it, they complete it, it falls off the board. So again, rather than having everyone go through their different kind of action management or task systems, we're just doing that all in one place for everyone to see it. And when I start my shift, I can see what I need to do. I'm not in the dark as far as what I need to do or what needs to occur in the next shift. Going back up here to the dashboards, what's great about these dashboards is it gives you the ability to actually click into them and drill down for more information. So if I was to click in here in the major, I'm going to use this one as an example. This Viva deviation, this was actually entered in through Viva and we pulled it in. Or if you want to start a quality deviation in Shift Connector, you could certainly do so as well. But here I can kind of go through, I could see, what the classification was. This has been escalated to a tier 2. I can see what the description was. And of course, if I, need to add a comment, I can certainly do so. I can see, is this actually associated with any other record in the system, which it's not. Or if I wanted to, I could also attach an additional task or instruction to this event as well. So you always have that ability to kind of take it one step further if you wanted to. But I see that this is actually, flagged for the tier 2 folks. And so let's go into a tier 2 to show you what their view is of these events. So as I go into a tier 2, you'll notice that my dashboard is different, right? Because as Zenzen mentioned earlier, based on your persona or your level in the organization, you're going to be focused on different things. It could be from minute to minute, as Zenzen was in maintenance, or it could be more day to day. And so here I can see more of a lean view for my tier 2 dashboard. I can see the SQ DCP. These widgets that you see are all based on the day of the week. So I can certainly click into this quality event that's red here. I can see that Viva deviation is listed here, which I'll get into in 1 second. I could also see additional information. So in terms of safety incidents and quality deviations, A little bit concerning. Again, they're highlighted in red. So again, this is where I'm going to want to focus my time on for the day. I don't really need to worry about the performance. The success audits are going well. My Gemba blocks are doing well. Shift trend looks decent. But I am a little bit concerned with the task on time completion rate, so I'll probably dig into there as well, towards the end of my shift. Um, but looking at this quality deviation, if I was to click into this as a tier two shift supervisor, I could take a look at this deviation and look at the description and think, okay, well, it was a minor increase in the non-product, particularly those recorded. It's actually within the allowable limit. So myself, I actually don't think this is actually something that is a major classification or that I need to actually worry about. So for me, what I'm actually going to do is actually edit this. I'm going to bump it back down to the tier one. I'm going to save that. And then in the comment field, I'm going to go in and just mention that um, is within limits, not a tier two priority, or whatever kind of message you want to put in there. So I can very easily communicate back down to the tier ones if I don't feel like something's within the spec, or maybe I could communicate back down and say, hey, this may be something I need to worry about, but I need some additional information. So please add some additional information, some descriptions, maybe show me something from the lab. You always have that ability to kind of continuously kind of communicate with people above you in a tier three or a tier one, which is very, very powerful. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to let you guys, if you guys have any questions regarding the dashboarding or how we have this set up, I'm going to let you guys enter that into the chat right now. One more thing before we get back into the AI conversation. As far as tasks as well, one of the cool things in the system is we also have the ability to kind of give you additional information as far as your task scheduling. So again, as a tier two, as a shift supervisor, I'm going to actually want to see a more high level view of all the things that I need to worry about for my different shifts, right? So here I could show all of the different tasks that are on the calendar, or I could just focus on the cell cultivation area only and get an idea of, hey, what's going on in the early shift, late shift, or the night shift. I could see specifically what needs to be done if something is past due. I also have the ability to see or record how many FTEs will be on hand for those specific shifts, or how much time is actually allotted towards those shifts as well. You can also, if you wanted to, maybe you want to move these around, you could always drag and drop these if you need to update them. So giving you that capability as well. But just another great way of just kind of seeing holistically what needs to occur in your plants at any time. So with that, I know we're a little bit tight on time here. I want to get back to the conversation of um, Zenzen, are you showing? There we go. Look at that transition. Before I turn up to Zenzen for the AI conversation, want just to mention in terms of like some of the benefits we have seen, I think I highlighted the time savings a little bit ago. But this is actually from one of our customers. It is a global biopharma company. You all know it. I just can't list it. But some of the savings that they've seen since deploying Shift Connector, and I should also say within, I think, 4 months of go live, they saw these benefits. Overall, 27 minutes saved per user per workday, which is incredible, which kind of aligns with also what you mentioned, Zenzen, in terms of your day-to-day previously. We also saw a 50% time savings in shift activities, which is huge as well. Also, this is also critical as well because we also know that when it comes to like safety incidents, roughly 50% of safety incidents also happen within the first 30 minutes of a shift start. So again, if you're more efficient, but also communicating more effectively during your shift activities, obviously there's a more productivity, but also thinking of the safety folks as well. That's also huge. And then, of course, a 63% reduction in nonconformities, which from a a financial savings is very, very valuable. So with that, Zenzen, I'm going to turn over to you to talk a little bit about AI. You're muted. It's all right.
Such a
It's late in
rookie.
Germany.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, just imagine you're having all this information in, right? Like you would have like all your shift records, all the events, all the tasks, all the Viva integrations, QMS and everything, right? And then of course, naturally, like we get to a point where we're just asking ourselves, what can we do with all these data, right? And this is really where the AI piece is coming in. So just imagine you could use like your organization's data and you could like easily find things. So when I also like think back to, for example, when we did troubleshooting, like a lot of times you will know that this issue occurred already before, and you will know that the one person that can solve it, but this person is maybe just not here right now. So you can't ask them, right? Just so really, if you would have the ability to go through your data in a efficient and fast manner, and I'm going to show you in a second how we do this, you'll be able to do troubleshooting much, much faster. And then not only just the troubleshooting, like in this immediate shift or what like this person has to do to solve the issue, but also if you go into root cause problem solving, right? Like a lot of times we spend like 90% of the whole problem solving time on finding all the information we need. And then very, very little time is really only spent on resolving the issue, because once we have compiled all the data, it becomes super clear and super visible. And then also just like using all the data you have there and be able to improve your system, be able to improve all your record. Like I'm going to show you how this can work. So I think you can see the demo, right? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So of course, like you can use, or of course, I think a lot of people are already using like Gen AI, right? So this is nothing quite different from it. Like our Shift Connector artificial manufacturing intelligence is called SEMI. And SEMI can help you doing the exact like three things I was just talking about. It can help you search in your data for anything you want to do. Like just going to do the last one here. Which types of cleaning issues did we have in this and that bioreactor, right? And what you can already see is like I had a typo in there, and really the AI behind here is able to look into everything that is like familiar to it. So we're asking for cleaning issues, but it is not only looking for cleaning issues. It will know when you're talking about CIP, so cleaning in place, or if you would have any other thing that are related to cleaning. And then it would just here in this simple search function, it would just show you all the incidences and all the like tasks and notifications and events where we had anything to do with cleaning issues. If we go to the solution space, same question, right? We can ask the same question, and then Semi would like go through all the records we have on hand, and it would start suggesting solutions. And you can also like rate the solution, so you will over time see which solutions have worked better or which are maybe not desirable. But always you have the opportunity to click on it. You can always look at what was the issue and what was the solution, and we will highlight it for it. So the AI behind there is really strong in like contextualization of that like unstructured data a human operator would put in, and we only put it into one field, but it would still be it can still identify whether you're talking about a problem or you're talking about a solution, and it will show you this accordingly. And then
Yeah, it's also worth noting, just as a quick like as a just a probably question people may have is the AI tool itself, it's all trained on your data only, and it's only going to show you data relevant to you. So it's not an open system that anyone can see the data. All the language models, we train it specifically on your data, and our AI team works with you specifically to make sure it's pulling back results relevant to how you guys are operating on a day-to-day. So as we're generating these results for you, it's based on data in the system. We're not like hallucinating or making stuff up. which is key, right? You don't obviously want to just make up data that's not there. So just
Yeah.
a important note.
Yeah, super important. Thank you for this one. Yeah, and then like I think especially talking about hallucinations, we all have that once we use one of those like Gen AI assistants everyone is maybe using already nowadays. Like you really want to make sure if you're in a production environment that there is no hallucination, that you always have the sources there so you can double check as well, but really just being able to rely on the data. And here really with the chat function, very similar to how we are used to it, but you can use it to really look only through like the entries we have. And we can just ask it something like, there's a predefined prompt, how much delay did the lab cause in the past? And I can just click on it and it will start like looking into my data and answer my question. So really here what we can see is we asked to generate a table, which the AI did. We can see the delays we had. There's always like a source, so we can also see which entry this is coming from. We can, like we have a short summary here, but we can also look into the entry itself if we want to. And we can ask follow-up questions, right? So I can just ask, how can we prevent future lab delays? And I'm sure it's going to be something like maintenance. But yeah, so yeah, we really just work on the data we have in the system and solutions that have maybe worked in the past. So
Awesome. Thanks, and that's really where we're trying to take our AI technologies a little bit more towards that agentic approach where you can just ask it questions, summarize reports, rather than having to really hunt for information. It's more of a kind of a natural conversation you'll have with the AI tool.
yeah, and I mean it's really great in the sense that like sometimes when you look for something you really have to think about how I called it like 3 years ago. Like did I call the issue like I call the issue today? And really there, like it takes away a little bit also of that complexity and it makes it really easy to go through your data. Like some of the benefits we have seen also here, right? Like faster time to resolution, especially if you're thinking about troubleshooting again, like maybe you would see an alarm, but you don't quite know what it means. And then you have to either go and hunt for the person that would know, or you have to go and find the manual to go through it. So really there like an average like 2 hours faster time to resolution. Root cause analysis, right? Like if you don't need 90% of the time to collect the data, you're much faster also in root cause analysis. And of course, as well, like cost reduction tied to poor quality, we see a decrease in like 10% and really an increase then is in cost savings because less reworks, higher quality. Right. And yeah, I think with that, we can open it up to questions. You can just post them in the chat or in the Q&A function.
Geraldine, good question. We like to say like crawl, walk, run approach to how you do this. So if you just wanted to start with kind of like the core, I guess, shift connector functionality and like tier boards, maybe one or two integrations, you could certainly do so. But yeah, we kind of work with you in terms of how you want to scale this out, how many integrations you want to do, how complex you want it to do it from the integration side. But no, you could always add additional functionality, whether it's like if you want to get into things like OEE or the mobile Shift Connector Go piece as well. You could always add things as you get further along. That's typically how most of our customers do it. They just kind of add functionality after 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And another question coming in.
And I think maybe also back to the previous question, right? Like Shift Connector, I think you answered, right? Yeah. Yeah, we can integrate with many systems. We are partnering very strongly with MES because we see that this is, of course, a very important one, and as well with SAP for like the maintenance system, as well as production data.
Yeah, we are partnered with Corber for PassX, SAP Microsoft. I know I'm forgetting some, Aviva, Pi on the historian side, but yeah, we work with Maximo, Aspen 21, a lot of robust integration tools at our disposal. So if there's a system you want to pull into, it's very easy to do so.
Yeah. And like today we just had the discussion about whether or how OEE can be really used on the shop floor. And I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion around whether OEE is the right KPI, whether we should actually use it or not, or like what we could actually use. And what we have seen is that a lot of times people on the shop floor would rather use like pieces produced or anything similar because it's really easy. You see it immediately. You don't need to calculate it. But there again, like pieces produced doesn't necessarily relate to operational efficiency, and they're just having the possibility to choose whether I want to have like real-time OEE calculation versus like pieces and then calculating OEE maybe later and not really relating back to the shift. It is just great to have that choice, whatever like choice you will make there.
I'm not sure if there's another question coming in. I'll also just put my email in the chat if you guys have additional questions. You can always email me at any time, and I'll be more than happy to get you answers as well. Yes, it is a cloud system. If you have to deploy it on premise, we can accommodate that as well. But we do prefer to host it in our cloud, which is Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, but we can do both, like especially for like validated environments and stuff. We understand. Yeah. Oh, that is such a good question. I mean, basically because we integrate in a lot, like so, Shift Connector itself, or like basically the demo we showed you, is not a validated system. And we highly recommend also to not validate it. But of course, like looking into QMS systems or MES systems, well aware that these are all validated systems. So we would pull in that data from your validated system, and I think we can also connect into the validated system. Like, but it really also depends on how you would like to have that interface, but for sure we can do that. We can also provide like a launch pad, so it is still seamless for the operator. The operator gets guided to where they're supposed to be doing that entry, and it looks seamless to them, but you will be writing into your validated system, of course, in a validated way. If the AI should be validated, so currently we are like not doing any like automated control, right? So there is no direct interference with your production in a sense. So I would not see that it needs to be validated, but I think we are not yet quite clear on how, not how, but like which AI to validate. But just because the use case is like so far away from automated controls or from automated decision making that would impact your production in a sense, like directly, I would not see that.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. But again, I did throw my email in there. If you folks have some additional follow-up questions, by all means, reach out to me at any time. More than happy to assist where I can. And with that, we'll wrap up the webinar. Really do appreciate everyone hopping on today. Hopefully you found it beneficial in terms of how you can leverage. We do have another question coming in. How you can leverage more of a centralized platform for managing your operations. And I do believe this will also be recorded. It has been recorded and posted. So I think you always go back to it and look as well. Zenzen, anything else that I forgot to add?
No, I think that was quite comprehensive. Like, of course, like if you want to reach out to me, you can always reach out to me as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day
Thank
or
you so
evening, depending on where
much.
you're located.
Yeah.
Bye.
Enjoy your day or evening. Bye bye.